Good evening and welcome to your Monday, March the 3rd, 2025 edition of the Evening News. I am Gerald Bryan. Let's take a look at some of the lead stories tonight. Venezuela's military ship retreats from STABROEK bloc. Government developing migrant labor policy to govern import of skilled workers. 20 homeless following Linden, GEORGETOWN fires. $112 million pumped into Region 6 to boost drainage and irrigation as 8 mini excavators given to NDCS. And PNCR's AMNA resigns, citing gripes with leadership. Now for the news in detail. As the government of Guyana and the international community remain outraged by the recent intrusion of a Venezuelan naval vessel into Guyana's offshore waters, reports indicate that the vessel has since retreated. Here is Trishelle Sobers with our lead story tonight.
At approximately 7 hours on Saturday, a Venezuelan naval vessel entered Guyana's waters and approached a tanker near the Prosperity Floating Production Storage and Offloading Vessel, producing oil in the STABROEK bloc. In a circulated recording, a radio broadcast exchange between the Venezuelan vessel and the captain of the Liza Destiny FPSO, the Venezuelan officer could be heard asking a number of questions to the captain. While the captain answered some questions, he refused to answer other inquiries, such as how many people were on board. Additionally, the vessel was heard claiming that the waters were in dispute, despite the fact that the waters are well within Guyana's exclusive economic zone. In a national broadcast on Saturday morning, President Dr. Irfaan Ali strongly condemned the actions of the Venezuelan Navy. Guyana promptly began informing international partners, including the Caribbean community, of Venezuela's intrusion. Since, there have been widespread condemnation from Guyana's international, regional, and local partners, all calling on Venezuela to respect Guyana's sovereignty and territorial integrity. On Monday, this newscast was informed that the Venezuelan ship has since departed Guyana's waters. The Evening News also understands that Guyana has since summoned Venezuelan ambassador to Guyana, Carlos Amador Perez Silva, to formally lodge a protest note over the development. Guyana is also in the process of updating the International Court of Justice (ICJ) on these developments. Venezuela is claiming more than two-thirds of Guyana's landmass in the Essequibo region and a portion of its exclusive economic zone where more than 11 billion oil equivalent barrels have been discovered over the past 9 years. In December last, Guyana submitted its final written reply to Venezuela's counter-memorial, pointing out that the Spanish-speaking nation case is without merit and that ultimately the court will confirm the 1899 order as valid and legally binding. In its merits phase of the case, Guyana's memorial was submitted on April 8, 2023, and Venezuela's counter-memorial was made 1 year later on April 8, 2024. Now with Guyana's reply filed on December 9 as set out by the ICJ, Venezuela will have the opportunity to respond with its rejoinder due on August 8, 2025. Trishelle Sobers, Evening News.
The government of Guyana is actively developing a comprehensive migrant labor policy to regulate the import of skilled foreign workers as the country faces an increase in demand across various sectors, including construction, hospitality, healthcare, and mining. Find out more in this Trishelle Sobers report.
Highlighting the Ministry of Home Affairs' frequent processing of work permits for a steady influx of migrants, particularly from Venezuela, Cuba, Haiti, and other nations, Labor Minister Joseph Hamilton emphasized that while migrant labor is not a new phenomenon in Guyana, the current scale of demand necessitates well-structured policies to manage its impact effectively. This underscores the urgent need for a comprehensive migrant labor policy. Speaking with this newscast via telephone on Monday, the minister explained that as Guyana positions itself as a key player in the global energy and infrastructure sectors, maintaining a balance between local employment and migrant labor will be a critical challenge in the coming years.
We have hundreds, maybe thousands of migrants in Guyana who have a work permit, and some of them from places who got to get visas, who have a visa and work permit to work in Guyana, who are recommended, who are given jobs by companies of all different types. Whether in tourism and hospitality, whether in construction, whether in manufacturing, they're here. What is happening now in the case of Guyana is that because of the great expansion of the country, the discussion is now centering on how you expand migrants coming to Guyana to work. Whether you allow for them to work as per projects in sectors like they do in the United States, where they have the farm project. So that is the conversation, and it's not a Guyana conversation, it's a CARICOM conversation.
Discussions are ongoing at the Caribbean community level to create a regional framework for the movement of skilled workers among member states. Hamilton explained that Guyana's national policy on migrant labor will be informed by CARICOM's regional discussions and best practices, an approach which seeks to create a structured and sustainable framework that benefits both the local workforce and economic development.
At the level CARICOM, they're discussing about having established a roster of all the technical people in every jurisdiction, so we can loan technical people to our sister countries. Because you might have more engineers at one place, and Guyana might need engineers somewhere that jurisdiction can lend us. And now that you have CARICOM is discussing the matter. Guyana is waiting on that conversation and the recommendations and the proposals, and within that framework, we will establish our own procedure regarding the issue of migrant labor coming to Guyana.
Despite concerns over job competition, Hamilton emphasized that Guyanese workers must seize available training opportunities to remain competitive. Nevertheless, he assured that government remains committed to prioritizing local employment through training and regional collaboration, among others.
We are doing several projects. So the OQSG mining project is just one. Wednesday we will launch a project to train 20 Guyanese women, 2 from each region, as PV solar panel technicians and maintenance personnel, funded by the IDB. Another project will be launched to deal with Region 178 that will be funded by the Canadians, I think 8.7 million Canadian dollars. That program will be launched at the Tushau Council office on Wednesday. And we have done projects funded by IDB. We are right now doing projects, executing projects funded by Basic Need Trust Fund. And that will continue.
Trishelle Sobers, Evening News.
18 persons, including several children, are now homeless after a fire destroyed their home on Sunday evening. The blaze started just before 1900 hours at Lot 8, Bamboo Drive, Meadowbrook, Georgetown. Reports are that 4 different families were living in separate apartments in the building. Barbara Reed, along with her husband, son, and several grandchildren, lived in one of the apartments. She told this newscast that she was at her business place a short distance away from the house when she was alerted about the fire and rushed home. Her daughter, who does not live there but arrived on the scene after being informed about the blaze, related to this newscast that she was told the fire was allegedly set by her sister-in-law. Meanwhile, 67-year-old Amina Qayyum resided in another one of the apartments with her 2 grandchildren and her son-in-law. She was in her bed when one of the kids alerted her about the fire. Up to news time, the Guyana Fire Service had not issued any statement on the incident. We now tell you that 2 persons are now homeless after a fire this morning gutted a house at Wismar, Linden, Region 10. Michelle Henry has more.
Disaster struck on Monday morning at approximately 7 hours 20 at 525 Block 22 Wismar, Linden, where a fire ravaged a 2-story wooden structure. The building was occupied by 56-year-old Selena Tilaka Dari and 38-year-old Shawnette Douglas, who are now homeless. Divisional Fire Officer Andrew Holder, in an interview with the Evening News, stated that the cause of the fire remains unknown. However, he noted that the complexities of the blaze had led to significant damage to nearby houses.
Okay, so our investigators are still on that site trying to piece together the cause, what transpired. We received that call around 7:20 this morning. It's 525 Block 22 Wisma.
Right.
And it was occupied more or less as an apartment block, an apartment building. 1, 2, 3, 4 different apartments. All right. As a result of the fire, 2 apartments were completely gutted.
Yeah.
And the other 2 were slightly damaged.
Okay, great.
2 persons would have left homeless.
Investigations are ongoing. Michelle Henry, The Evening News. The government has provided 8 mini excavators valued at approximately $112 million to local authorities in Region 6, East Berbice Quarantine, to enhance drainage and irrigation efforts. Our Berbice correspondent, Andrew Carmichael, reports that the handing over ceremony on Saturday marked another step in fulfilling the administration's commitment to equipping all neighborhood democratic councils, NDCS, and municipalities with the necessary machinery to mitigate flooding and support agricultural activities.
Region 6 Chairman David Armagon, speaking at the handing over ceremony on Saturday held at Tarlagy, said the acquisition of the mini excavators are part of ongoing efforts to improve drainage infrastructure, which has been a long-standing issue in the region. He pointed out that flooding has been a major challenge due to the inadequate drainage system and the lack of machinery to maintain canals and trenches, noting that the government has been making tremendous contributions to the development of Berbice in every sector, whether it is infrastructure, agriculture, education, or health. The investment in the excavators, he added, will help mitigate flooding and ensure faster drainage of water, ultimately benefiting residents and farmers.
And today, we can stand proud and say that the interjection and the investment that government has been making in this region is making people much happier today than they were previous to the last 4 years.
He pointed out that flooding has been a problem in the region when it rains because there are not enough machines to clean internal drains in residential areas.
Once you have more than 2 inches of rainfall in a 24-hour period, what you find is that there is going to be some amount of flooding in these areas, especially when the drainage system is blocked. Government recognizing this problem, and the government has recognized this problem for quite some time. They have been making interjection from time to time to ensure that they send machines to the region, and we are hiring machines too sometimes to ensure that we can clear the drainage system. And so once that has happened, we find that the water gets out very quickly from the land.
Meanwhile, also speaking at the handing over ceremony, Agriculture Minister Zulfikar Mustafa noted that persons in communities should recognize the important role government has been playing in providing development to those communities. These 8 mini excavators behind me that were handed over will ensure that all 19 NDCs in the region, along with the 3 municipalities, have their own mini excavators.
The NDIA will continue to operate these machines. You don't have the capacity to pay the operator or fuel the machine. So the NDIA will pay the operator and they will fuel the machine. We will be working with a program. So the NDC responsibility will be to submit a program to supervise the machine and ensure that the work is done to standards.
With the handing over of these 8 mini excavators to the NDCs in Region 6, not only does all the municipalities in Region 6 have mini excavators, but also the NDCs in Regions 4 and Region 5. According to the Agriculture Minister, now the attention will be on Regions 2, Cameroon Supernam, and Regions 3, Essequibo Islands, West Demerara. From Tarlagy on the Quarantine in Region 6, for Evening News, Andrew Carmichael.
Coming up, EPA sensitizing police on addressing noise pollution, and slow down and stay safe. Police urge caution on roadways.
Premier insurance coverage for less. Stay safe.
On the job, you know how it goes. 1 minute, everything's going right, and the next, something goes wrong. Don't worry, Premier Insurance will make things right again. For all risks insurance, call 223-0840 or visit premierinsurance.ui. Fuel your success. Premier insurance coverage for less.
Welcome back. You're watching the evening news. Long-standing stalwart of the People's National Congress Reform, AMNA Ali, has resigned, in the process calling on party leader Aubrey Norton and those around him to step down from their roles for the sake of the party. Here are the details. Former Minister of Social Cohesion under the APNU AFC coalition government, AMNA Ali, has resigned from the main opposition People's National Congress Reform, PNCR. In her letter of resignation, the PNCR stalwart and former General Secretary expressed her dissatisfaction with the current leadership of the party. There are a few specific instances she cited, such as the party's treatment of prominent women in the party, including Vanessa Kissoon, who also resigned from the PNCR a few days ago. According to Ali, Kissoon, as well as Linden Mayor Sharma Solomon and party elder Cheryl Sampson, were verbally abused at Congress Place during the National Congress of Women. She went on to call for party leader Aubrey Norton and his supporters in the party executive to resign and, quote-unquote, save the party. Efforts by this newscast to contact Norton were futile. When contacted for a comment, PNCR Chairman Sherwin Holder insisted that the resignation was being handled within the party.
Resignation is of such an internal matter, so we will deal with that internally. We don't want to go making any public statements based on a resignation.
It is not the first time Ali has publicly attacked Norton, claiming last year during the party's internal elections that Norton was not suited for leadership. Jarrell Bryan, The Evening News. As Guyana joins the rest of the world in observing World Hearing Day, the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, has said it is continuously working along with the Guyana Police Force to train officers on addressing the prominent issue of noise pollution across the country. Michael Henry tells us more.
Every year on March 3rd, World Hearing Day is observed. The theme for World Hearing Day 2025 is Changing Mindsets, Empower Yourself. In an interview with the Evening News on Monday, head of the Environmental Protection Agency, Kemaraj Parasram, noted that the organization is actively sensitizing police officials through an ongoing project aimed at reducing noise pollution in Guyana. Noise pollution in Guyana, such as loud music in minibuses and from community activities like bars, continues to be only partially addressed, according to the chairman of the Presidential Commission on Non-Communicable Diseases in Guyana, Dr. Leslie Ramsamy.
So the Guyana Police Force and the EPA were jointly addressing this issue, but primarily because the police force are more out there and they have direct engagement with these public transportation as well as bars. So they are being trained to assess noise levels, and in terms of the law, what is required was a requirement of the law, and so they can be able to enforce it at that level.
Parasram emphasized that the police force is in charge of how noise pollution cases are addressed.
The police will determine how they do it, but we are sensitizing the police, where we're training the police in the noise nuisance regulations and the capacity to assess noise nuisance levels, decibel levels, and so on.
Okay.
That partnership is ongoing.
Meanwhile, the EPA head noted that the organization also has a policy on how to address noise pollution amid a construction boom countrywide.
All construction at a certain scale have to be permitted by the EPA. So those construction, once they are permitted, they have all the guidelines that they must follow, and then we do our compliance check. If there are any that construction that hasn't that started without our permit that requires a permit, and we're not aware, if the public complains, we then respond and investigate what that is and take the necessary action.
This year, the Presidential Commission for the Prevention of NCDs in Guyana, in collaboration with the Permanent Mission and Embassy of Guyana in Geneva, has teamed up with the Ministry of Health to raise awareness among Guyanese about the importance of hearing and ear care. The Commission acknowledged that one of the main causes of hearing loss is exposure to loud noise. This environmental factor has been a chronic problem in Guyana, it further noted. Michelle Henry, The Evening News.
Senior traffic officers of the Guyana Police Force are calling on drivers to slow down and end the reckless driving on the country's roadways as they work to control speeding and better manage traffic in various regional divisions using body cameras and increased patrols. Luan McAllister joins us with the details.
Authorities say that while accident numbers have dropped in some areas, dangerous driving habits continue to put lives at risk. On a recent edition of the Road Safety NU program, several officers from various police divisions across Guyana said they are cracking down on reckless behavior with a strong focus on speeding and traffic violations. Inspector Tuluram Roop, attached to the Vigilance Police Station, stated that in his district, they are not just monitoring speed, but also using body cameras to ensure accountability in traffic stops and enforcement operations.
Road safety is not the police business, no, it's everyone's business. And our road safety time is that you must do the right thing. Vigilance, we are doing quite well here. We have ranks who we place on road, especially in the morning from 7 to 9, who will direct traffic and give priority to the traffic that go in on the westbound. In relation to after that, we have ranks who will be going on the road doing speeding exercise. They will also go with their body cam to ensure that whatever is taking place there is being recorded. In relation to our accident stats and so on, we have a decrease in stats.
Speeding is not the only issue officers are dealing with. At the Demerara Harbour Bridge, aggressive driving and line cutting continue to create delays and dangerous situations. Sergeant Kevin Glasgow from Regional Division 3, speaking about traffic violations at the Harbour Bridge, stated that there are a lot of impatient drivers.
We would like to encourage road users to cooperate with the police. They must get less confrontational with the police, right? Because we're there to assist them. And it's not a one-way thing, it must be a partnership.
As the inspector said.
Correct. We must work together in tandem in order to achieve our goal or our purpose, right? Now, persons who's coming to the Harbour Bridge, we all know the situation at the Demerara Harbour Bridge. We'll get a better flow of traffic when the new bridge is completed. However, for persons who's coming to the Harbour Bridge, we all know the situation. I'd like to advise them, leave early. Sometimes there are some issues with the bridge that would cause a delay in the traffic. Sometimes when the bridge open, it takes a little while before it lock, or it cannot lock, or sometimes there's an oil spill or a vehicle breakdown on the bridge. And you know, these drivers, they tend to get confrontational with the police, not knowing what is causing the build-up or the delay of traffic, right? So I would like to encourage those drivers to be a bit more patient.
Officers say they are also paying close attention to accident-prone areas known as black spots, where speeding and reckless driving have led to serious crashes. Meanwhile, Sergeant Ronald Payne from Regional Division 4B stated that they are working on educating drivers on the dangers of speeding.
My team and I would normally go out every day and lecture to drivers, we lecture to companies, we would do regular enforcements.
Lawanda McAllister, for the evening news.
The traditional Berby Smash Float Parade took place on Sunday through the streets of New Amsterdam, Region 6, East Berbice Quarantine, traditionally referred to as Berby Smash, brought the curtains down on matrimony activities for 2025. Our Berbice correspondent Andrew Carmichael has the story.
The float parade, which took place on Sunday, saw 12 government ministries participating, along with sections of the private sector. In addition to that, thousands gathered on the streets and joined behind the numerous bands provided by the private sector and marched down the road.
Is there any of this?
Regional Executive Officer Navindra Prasad referred to the event as a success, noting that it showcased the One Guyana which President Dr. Irfan Ali has been working hard to implement.
Today, we've got 12 floats, and each one of the ministry that is represented here today is represented either by a permanent secretary or a deputy permanent secretary. And in addition to them, permanent secretary, deputy permanent secretary, we also had some senior members of staff. We've got at least one minister so far that I've seen here also. This shows the importance of this government, through His Excellency guidance, to this activity. It's not just a little gyration, a little passing through a float, but the ministries have put emphasis and put purpose to this by His Excellency, because we are following the guidance of His Excellency and this One Guyana initiative.
The ministries that participated in Berby Smash were the Ministry of Amerindian Affairs, the Ministry of Culture, Youth and Sport, the Ministry of Agriculture, the Ministry of Natural Resources, the Ministry of Public Works, the Ministry of Tourism, the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Health, the Ministry and Department of Education, the Region 6 Administration, and the Office of the Prime Minister, among others. For the evening news, Andrew Carmichael.
And now for a look at the bridge reports.
The Demer Harbour Bridge will be closed to vehicular traffic on Tuesday, March 4, 2025 at 20 hours 30 for a period of 1.5 hours. Meanwhile, the Berbice River Bridge is scheduled to be closed to vehicular traffic at 6 hours 55 on Tuesday, March 4, 2025, also for a period of 1.5 hours.
The man for the job, Singh talks CWI governance reform and intent, intensity and tenacity in focus for Fruit of Conquerors. These stories coming up in this evening's Sportscast, sponsored by McCorb.
In today's tough driving conditions, every engine faces three powerful enemies: engine heat, pollutants, and frequent short trips. Each factor is a direct cause of engine sludge, a buildup of dirt that can block vital oilways. This triple threat demands triple protection. Castrol GTX's Triple Protect Power is engineered to fight these three main causes of engine sludge.